Hi guys, it's Mrs. Delorme. Today we're going to talk about a back-to-back stem and leaf plot. So yesterday you learned how to create a stem and leaf plot and how to interpret one. Today we're going to look at a back-to-back stem and leaf plot. And these are used to compare two sets of data. The stems are in the center. So in a regular stem and leaf plot, it's on the left-hand side. This time it's in the center. And the left leaves are going to be read in reverse, okay? So we're just going to jump in, and here we're given two sets of data. So it's the ages of people who voted. So they're in millions. So 8 million people voted between the ages of 18 to 24, 16 from 25 to 34, and so on and so forth. Now here's another set of data. It's the people who did not vote and their ages. And we want to compare the data of the ages that voted versus did not vote, okay? And what we do is here in the center is my stem. And we know that this here, so I'm just going to put stem here. This is the ones digit, okay? This is your first digit. So this is my stem, and then voted is going to go to the right, and did not vote is going to go to the left, and it's going to be read in reverse. So 8 million people voted. So that 8 is going to go next to voted, okay? And that's my smallest number, so that's going to be my first number, right? They're written in order. So 8. So I can cross off the 8. Then I'm going to go down, okay, there's no more that will go in this category for voted. So I'm going to move down to my 1. And I have 16, 16, 12, and 10. So 10 is my smallest number that will go here. So I'm going to go 0, right? And this is read 1, 0. So 10. My next smallest number is 12. That's 12. Then I have two 16s. And I do have to write both. So 6 and 6, because it's 16 and 16. Then I have a 23 and a 24. Okay. So I finished voted. I'm going to go to did not vote. Okay. I need to look at my numbers with only one digit. So I have 8, 5, and 5. And now they're going to be written in reverse. So my smallest number is going to come first, and that'll be closest to my stem, and that is a 5. Okay. Then I have another 5, so I'm going to write it next to the 5. And this is read 0, 5, which is 5, 5. Then I have an 8. Okay. My next number is a 14. So this is read 1, 4. So just like it's read 1, 0, so this is 10, 12, 16, 16. It's read the same way, just in reverse. So this is 14, and then the 1 still comes first, 18. So you always go back to your stem and then to your leaf. So 14, 18, okay? Next I have a 20 and then a 21. The 0 has to come first. It's going to be closest to my stem because it's read in reverse, and then it goes out to 21. This is 20 and then 21. And the key tells me this here, this is my stem, so 0, 8 means 8. And then it tells me 4, if it's on the left side of this vertical line, which is my stem, it means 14, not 41. And that's a common mistake. A lot of students want to read this as 80 or 50. You always start with your stem. Just as you would go to the right, you start with your stem and you go to the left. So 0, 5, 0, 5, 0, 8. 14, 18, 20, 21. Okay. So this is what it would look like. Nice and neat versus my writing. Okay. Here's another one where we want to create a stem and leaf plot. This is comparing U.S. representative for selective states in 1950 versus 2000. So we're going to look at how many representatives each state had in 2 different years. So again, we're comparing 2 different sets of data. And I can start with 1950. I'm going to go and find my smallest number. Okay, that's 14. That's 4 here, 14, then 18, 18. Okay, my next number is 25, then 31, and then 43. Okay, then I can do my right side. So my smallest number in 2000 is 10. So 1, 0, that's 10. Then 15, and then 19. Oh, I have 2 19s, and make sure you always put both numbers if there's duplicates. So this reads 19 and 19, so I know that there's 2 19s when I read my stem and leaf plot. And then 29, my largest number. All right, we're going to now analyze the data. So we learned how to create a double stem and leaf plot or a back-to-back stem and leaf plot, and now we can analyze it. So who had the least amount of U.S. representatives? So I'm going to go and look at my smallest number. In 1950, the smallest amount of U.S. representative in the selected states was 14. So the smallest amount of U.S. representatives was 14 in one state. In 2000, it was 10. So who had the least number of U.S. representatives? That was in year 2000, and that was 10 U.S. representatives. Who had the most? Well, let's say the most in 2000 was 29, and the most in 1950 was 43. That's a lot of U.S. representatives for one state. So in 1950, they had the most amount of U.S. representatives. And I can look at this and I can clearly see 1950 varied much more, right? It went from 14 to 43. And talking about varying, I'm going to talk about range. So 43 minus 14, that's going to give me 29. So the range here ranges by 29 U.S. representatives in 1950. And I can see that it has a much bigger range here just by looking at it, which is the great thing about stem and leaf plots. It clearly shows that data. It's very clear. So in 2000, it ranged from 29 to 10. So I'm going to do 29 minus 10 to find my range of U.S. representatives in 2000. And we can see that that's a difference of 19. So there were a difference in the states by 19 representatives. This was a much smaller range than it was in 1950. We can see that in 1950, it was much more common to have more U.S. representatives in a state than it was in year 2000. So I think that as the years went on, there were just less and less U.S. representatives per state. So this is a nice way of analyzing this data. It's very clear. Okay. Here, it's the NBA Midwest Division from 2000-2001, their final standings. And here are the NBA teams and how many wins they had and how many losses they had. And if I wanted to create a stem and leaf plot to compare and contrast the wins versus losses for all the teams, I can do that. And I set that up here. So just like you did for the regular stem and leaf plot, you start with your smallest number. Okay, my smallest number is 23, so I know my stem needs to start at 2. My largest number is 59 for losses, so I know my stem needs to go to 5. Okay, then the key tells me what it represents. Okay, so this reads 59 and this reads 53. Okay, not 35, so be careful. This is 23, not 32. 23, 53, 53, 58. Okay. So if I want to know who had the least number, was it wins or losses, the smallest number? And that would be wins. Okay. Because they have 23, whereas losses, the smallest number was 24. So they had the least amount of wins there. Who had the most wins or losses? Well, 58, then this is 59. So losses had the biggest number. Okay. So we talked about least and most in comparison to both. I can also easily look at what was my smallest number for wins, the least amount. So that would be 23. And again, it's red 23. Okay. What about the most? The most wins that there were was 58. The least amount of losses there were 24. So that's my very first number. And then my last number is going to be the most losses, which is 59. 59 losses for one of the NBA teams. And then range. Remember range, you subtract your highest number from your smallest number. So 58 minus 23 is 35. So these ranged by 35 numbers. And then my losses, they range 59 minus 24, and that's 35. Wow, the numbers ranged the exact same amount. That's interesting. So they had the same amount of range. Remember that you can also find the median. So you can cross off from left to right the median. Now be careful, you have to start with your largest number and smallest number, and then you work your way in. That's this one. Then this. So your median here is not 7. Be careful. Your median for wins is 47. So I'm going to just add in median so we can say for wins it is 47. And then if we want to do the median for losses, we're going to do the same thing. I cross off from left to right. If it's easier to write these numbers out on a piece of paper, please, by all means, do that. Just make sure that you write them correctly, 24, 29, 29, 35, 37, 42, 59. But you cross off from least to greatest until you have one number in the middle. Remember, if you have two numbers in the middle, you have to find the average of them. So this is not 5, this is 35. And again, it might just be helpful to write the numbers out and find the median. The numbers have to be in order from least to greatest, which in this case, they are written in order from least to greatest. Okay, so they're already written in order from least to greatest. They have to be. So that's the median. You can find the average. You add all the numbers up and divide by how many you have. So you could find the average of the wins and the average of the losses. And then this is also very clear to see the mode. So the mode for wins is 53, and the mode for losses is 29, because I have two of them. Okay. So again, double stem and leaf plots, they're just a very clear way of viewing the data, and you can compare two sets of data. So that is the purpose of back-to-back stem and leaf plots or double stem and leaf plots. What you're going to do now is you're going to go ahead and practice this new skill on Schoology. There are 5 questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.